We are back on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in Albuquerque, New Mexico on 1000 KKIM. Our guest by phone, author of a great new book, Uncommon Sense, The Talmud's Timeless Solutions to Political and Social Challenges, Rabbi Ganz. So, Rabbi, I was asking you about Chapter 4, talking about the pro-life versus the pro-choice statements that you were discussing, and you were going to explain that.
Yes, I'll try to run it through quickly. The first thing, the first position, the first issue that I take up there is the viability of an egg in a Petri dish. When they do in vitro fertilization. Mm-hmm. So it became a big contentious issue during the Bush administration because George W. Took the position that it's a human. So, in that respect, the Talmudic ideal is that it's not a human because it can't live. It has to be implanted, which is a major change. So you can do stem cell research with these things. And when they do in vitro fertilization, apparently the best way to do it is to take a few of the most promising eggs and not take the others, which some oppose because you're leaving the others to die. So that is okay. Now the next step on the chain is after the semen is implanted in a woman, and you're talking about a morning after pill. Now this created a whole storm recently when they were giving out morning after pills in high school. It could be in California. I don't remember where it was. It was about 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
I think it might have been out here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the position taken is that it's a bit of a doubt because you don't know for sure that there is a pregnancy. It's impossible to know, a few hours later. It may be that nothing is going to happen, and it may be something would happen, but it didn't happen yet. In other words, the fertilization can take place days later. So here you have a little bit of a rabbinic type of look at the thing. So they said if it's extremely under extreme dire circumstances, say if there was incest or there was a rape or an unstable parent, then you could use a morning after pill, but not for a schoolgirl in high school because that's not extenuating circumstances. And then there's some people that say that during the first 40 days you treat it the same way. This is already a little bit more iffy in Talmudic law because there's an opinion that until 40 days there really isn't a baby there. There's nothing there. I just happened to see through a cursory internet search that they discovered that there's no brain function until 40 days. So there's really no humanity. Again, under very extenuating circumstances, maybe you could do something. But after 40 days, then already the law is that you're dealing with a viable fetus. And you can't abort. I mean, normally you can't abort because it's like ending a life, really.
Under Talmudic law, you mean?
Yes, according to the Talmudic law that I cited in the chapter. Mm-hmm. Like for things like Down syndrome, they would not permit aborting.
Okay.
There are, however, two exceptions during that period between 40 days and the birth, where they do permit abortion. The whole tone of this thing is very nuanced. It's not do abortion or don't do abortion, but in the 40 days till birth period, there are two circumstances under which what could be done. One is if the baby has a condition, if we're 100% sure, there are a number of illnesses. I think one of them is called trisomy 18. I believe that's how you pronounce it. That a baby with that condition will definitely die just before during, or just after birth. It's unquestionable. There's no avoiding it. If you know that the fetus is afflicted with this, you can abort immediately. And I imagine that the reason is it's just not a viable. It's not a viable life. It's definitely going to die.
Right.
It was never a life to begin with.
Because it had no chance of being born, is what you're saying.
Right. It had no chance of being born. It's not like a sick person who's about to die.
Right.
We don't do that. We don't kill sick people who are about to die, and we don't kill sick infants, let's say infants with heart conditions, that may or may not live into adulthood. But there we don't abort because they are living beings. This type of child, though, unfortunately, will never live. So it was never a human to begin with, to a certain extent.
Sure. Let me jump to something else real quick. We're having a conversation with Rabbi Ganz, author of Uncommon Sense, the Talmud's Timeless Solutions to Political and Social Challenges. In one of the chapters you were talking about, Chapter 7, dealing with why liberals are liberal about ideas and all people.
Oh.
And then I have a follow-up question to
that.
You knew I was going to go there.
That'd make me a lot of friends, yeah.
Well, let me ask my follow-up question first. Let me do this backwards, okay? Something that's always fascinated me, and I grew up in Toronto, and I grew up in a Jewish area in Los Angeles, and I've always been amazed at why a lot of the Jewish community is liberal, because you would think, based on support for Israel, based on a lot of family issues, they would be more conservative rather than liberal. So, as part of your chapter, I'm wondering, how the Talmud and how you've dealt with this.
It's funny you ask. I was on the radio yesterday with someone in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we were having this lively. So he tried to get a call in. The guy calls up, how come the Jews vote liberal? So that was the one thing that he asked me, So I really deal with it in the chapter, and I think in a compelling way. The larger issue is, as I put in the subtitle to that chapter, is the anomaly of people who are liberal. And liberal really, what it means is I'm tolerant of so much that others are intolerant of. I'm tolerant of sexual deviance, I'm tolerant of this, I'm tolerant of that, and I glorify it and everything. But I'm so intolerant about someone that disagrees with me. And it is, an intellectually challenging notion. Like, how do these two become bedfellows? The tolerance and the intolerance. It's a little bit complicated, to go through very quickly, but after dealing with the issue, I think I explained somewhat why Jews tend to vote liberal. Although I must tell you that the Orthodox Jews, the traditional Jews, such as myself, tend to vote conservative.
Okay, that I can understand. Yeah, that would make sense to me. That the Orthodox Jews would vote conservative because they're more followers of the law, followers of the morality aspect of it, so, and that would tend to be more conservative. So that makes sense to me. Let me ask you a question that's related to your book but not related to your book. The state of Israel. I firmly believe the United States should support Israel more than we have lately. But I'm also a little afraid that Israel is going to be forced to defend themselves with a nuclear Iran. Is that something that you've thought of or given any thought of from a Talmud perspective?
I mean, you go into if you get mixed up with a group of 5 Jews, there are going to be 7 opinions about what to do.
I can relate to that one.
What was it? There's this classical story. I think it was Truman and Ben-Gurion, who was the first president of Israel.
Uh-huh.
Him and Harry were together, and Truman said something like, I have a much harder job than you. I'm the president of a country of 100 million people. And Israel had, let's say, 2 million people. So Ben-Gurion said, no, my job is harder. I'm a president of a country of 2 million presidents.
That's about right. That's about
So
right.
all the ideas swirl around in our community about what should be done. It's what the question you're raising is really, jokes aside, it's very serious. These people are terrible. These Iranian people are not the people, but the government. What the country does is they're the largest, the main sponsors of terror throughout the world. They have no compunctions about killing as many people as they can. I don't know why. I don't know why they just don't take them out. I actually wrote a blog about it. It's on my website. They should just go after them immediately. There's an expression in the Talmud: if someone is coming to kill you, just go kill him. Which means that if someone telegraphs and says, "I'm going to kill you," you don't negotiate with them. With people that are killers are in a different. They're in a different, in a different place. It was silly to negotiate with Adolf Hitler before the Second World War. Forget about the Jewish aspect to his program.
Exactly.
He wanted to enslave Europe. He wanted to enslave the world. He was saying so. He was weak in the mid-30s. They could have taken him out very easily, and they waited. They waited till he was ready to go to war, and
then it was too late.
A tragedy. Around 50 million people died in the Second World War. Could have taken them out easily.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are doing the same thing with these guys. They've shown that they're willing to kill. They're saying they're going to kill. They're arming themselves to kill. And the administration talks about negotiating with them.
Exactly.
How awful can...
Yeah. Rabbi, I wish we would have kept you for the whole hour now. We're out of time, unfortunately. And stay on if you would at the break, if you would, okay? The website, again, is www.rabbiganz.com. I highly recommend the book. And, Rabbi, thank you so much for the time. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio News Talk 1180.